Oh.
I saw it, I tapped it, and it went away.
Do you have it in your pictures?
I know it.
Yeah, I think we saved it in your pictures last week. So Curtis, just put it up just like that in front of the camera, and you should be all right. You have to tap that green button. You want to bring it over to where it sees it. Bring your phone over this way. There you go. See your name?
Okay.
All right, you're checked in. Hello. 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 Yeah.
Are you Professor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Dylan.
Yeah.
I thought this class started today.
Oh, okay.
So am I gonna be all right, or?
Yep. Yeah. I'll get with me after class, but you should be fine. Yep.
How do we log on to these machines?
With your S number, the same username and password you use for Eagle. Log into Eagle. It should work. Yep. Yep. No? On the board, use your phones and log into Kahoot and put in that code. Follow the directions there. You can use your phone or your computer, either one. It'd be great if you could use your mobile phone. If you could go to any web browser and go to kahoot.it and then put in that game pin. It's up. Let's go ahead. Okay, good. Yep. And when did you get this username and password? Maybe it's going to be Eagle. Lesson 1-4. Try that. Sorry. There you go. Your nickname can be whatever superhero you want. Do that. Go sign up. Go look through. Go sign up. That's what. Kahoot.it. You can install the app. You don't have to. But Kahoot.it. Mobile device, browser. That works best in Chrome, but I'm using it on Safari. Firefox. You can use computer. Should be prompted to enter a game pin. We'll do this when we're in class session. Just go to Kahoot.it and then basically go hit play. Very top, just hit play. And enter in the game pin. So Kahoot.it, tap the play button at the top if you're on a mobile device, and then type in the game pin on the board. That should say waiting, and you should see your name show up on the whole thing. If you need help, let me know, or ask your neighbor if you see they're working. They'll get them. Go up there, where's that Google.com? Just go to Kahoot. KAH. There you go. Got it. I just said, we got typed in something. Where did it go? I tapped that first line. See what it says game pin? That's real time. It's on 225. Y'all see that? What? No, it won't. No. Yeah. Anybody else need help getting on? All right. Yeah. All right. So how's everybody doing tonight? Good. All right. We're going to get started with the Kahoot game up here in a second. Basically, all Kahoot is it's a way to learn in a quiz, in a game type of environment, a gaming type of environment. And you'll see in a second, you'll have a question and then usually 4 options for an answer. Some of them are true and false. All the stuff for the most part, majority of the questions today is from week 1 quiz that you took already. So you've already taken it already. Some of you maybe 3 times. So you've seen the questions already. There's a few questions in there that are just kind of, I'll throw in there that'll kind of like common sense or things that are going on in the news or whatever type of questions that have to do with technology or not, just a fun trivia type of question. So Kahoot is, we'll do it each session that we're in class anyway. We'll do a Kahoot when you guys start up, when you come in. So I'll usually get it up and going about maybe 10 till 6. And then, are we ready? Is everybody logged in? All right, cool. I'm going to go and get started. Social media is a question. There's the 4 options. Tap the one you think is a true answer or a true statement about social media. You have 20 seconds. The faster you tap, the higher your score. And you will see a leaderboard show up each time as well. All right. So on this one here, the answer was social media is incorporated as part of a political strategy. Thought there could have been a better answer than that, but anyway, that's all right. We'll go with that one. All right. Next. These are the leaderboard. They give you the top 5 folks. And we, since you use a nickname, I have no clue who you are. But Chair, Anthony, Trixie, Tuhak, and Sam B are the top 5. Sophisticated modeling software is helping international researchers. And again, select the true statement. Increase pace of research, analyze gaming systems, create more integrated screenplays, or market new types of products. Tap it as quickly as possible, one of those 4 options. And you're not being graded on this, by the way, it's just for fun, okay? So relieve the stress there. All right, the true answer was increasing pace of research and finding and producing vaccines, which is pretty cool that software is able to do that. Next, and oh, by the way, here's the leaderboard. A couple in from the last one, and Deadpool's in, and Big Dog, and I think Justin joined us in the top 5. Hacktivism is another word for cyber terrorism. True or false? I think it goes to the last question on your quiz, I believe, something like that. False. Yeah, hacktivism is using technology for good, basically, in a community or in the world. Kind of like the question before of using technology to figure out ways to heal folks or to find healing solutions for people with medicine or technology. All right, next. Oh, here we go. Let's see what anybody new in here. I think it's about the same as the last one. Virtual reality is an addition of a graphical information to your visual field. True or false? True. It is a bringing reality. Virtual reality is bringing reality into your world. Augmented reality is basically where objects become a part of where your real world. Virtual reality is you becoming a part of another world and partaking in that world, whatever that might be, whether it be a game, whether it be visiting a museum, whatever it might be. And they actually have technology today where you can, I'm working with Burpee Museum, meeting with them tomorrow, where they're going to actually scan like 54,000 artifacts in the back of Burpee that they can't bring out on the floor. And they're going to make it available versus augmented reality for K through 12 students to access and bring basically these artifacts into a classroom environment with augmented reality, which is kind of cool. And so since they don't have the room on the shelves, they're going to use augmented reality to bring these artifacts to life. Like an example was moccasins that were worn by Indians hundreds of years ago. They have like hundreds of pairs of them that they have no room on the floor that people don't even know exist, which is kind of cool. Tomahawks, axes, bald eagles, a whole bunch of cool stuff they got back here. So see, we got, I think the same top 5. So everybody else, oh, it says here 7 players have reached answer streak. Good job. That means you've answered quickly. Here we go. Intellectual property. 5 terms that one of the 4 terms mean intellectual property. Result of someone creative work and design can include works of music, film, engineering, can be protected legally by a patent system, or all the above. All the above. It is a result of someone's creative work and design. It can include works of music, film, engineering. Even I'll throw in there software application can be a part of that as well, like an app falls underneath the intellectual property. Can be protected legally by a patent system. So all of those 3 are true statements about intellectual property. All right. Web-based databases are being used to help investigators solve criminal cases. True or false? True, very true. And so you probably heard in the news recently, being able to bring up old cold cases with the new technology we have with DNA, being able to find, do DNA testing that we couldn't do 20 years ago. Yeah. Oh, false. I did say that. Web-based data be used to help investigators solve criminal. It should be true. Did everybody put true or false in there?
True.
Yeah, it should be true. It's my bad. It is true. Disregard the slide. I checked the wrong one. My bad. But I think it's cool that technology can actually be used to hold people accountable for things that they've done. Or I've seen it to where it's made people, found out they were innocent of something they did, or people thought they did 100 years ago or 50 years ago. And that's kind of cool as well, to clear their name. So either one, I think it's a good one. That web bases are helping us solve crimes. It's kind of cool. All right. My T lab grades are on RBC Eagle. True or false? My T lab grades are on RBC Eagle. False. It is all on the My T lab and not on the Eagle end. Trixie is part of the top 5, it looks like. When do you need to check in with the iPad up here? During face-to-face sessions only, or face-to-face and online sessions both? That's right. You gotta throw a few in there, a few curveballs in there, right? So during face-to-face session only is when you need to check in with the iPad with your QR code. Yes. Do I know? Oh, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. This isn't being graded. You're fine. Oh, for the QR code? Yeah, you can use mine later before you leave. So if you forget your phone ever, you can ask me and I can use my phone. Or if you get to know your neighbor, you can use their phone as well to pull it up. But no, come up here after you leave and before you leave, and I'll check in. No problem. All right. Number 9, how often should you check your RBC email? Once a week, once a day, or what is RBC email? Yeah, definitely once a day. We talked about this last week. Just again, I think I told you guys like by 4 p.m. on Tuesday, for sure, before you come to class. In case, like last night, thank God nothing happened over here, but a lot of people were flooded out. Power was out in a number of areas. Maybe some of you are affected by that. And so again, just checking your email once a day. Just take a minute to do that would be great. Yeah. All right, top 5. And the last question, almost every industry requires some computer-related skills. True or false? Almost every industry requires some computer-related skills. True or false? True. Every industry, healthcare, manufacturing, construction, restaurant business that I was in for a number of years. All these technologies, all these industries require some computer-related skills that maybe 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, wasn't required or needed. And so you don't have to be, go to college, take a computer class to just to learn how to program. It's basically to do pretty much any type of job you want to go into. You have to know how to use a computer, get around a computer. And so that's the Kahoot. This is the final points, the top 3. So to hack, Anthony and Justin are the top 3. So good job. And again, this is just for fun. We'll do this every in face-to-face session. I might do it online too, because I can do this online. I can package it to where you guys can do this on your own, and regardless what time you take it, kind of see where you fall. So you guys like it? Pretty easy, right? I'll make sure you get the correct answer on the next one. So apologize. All right, so Kahoot. Basically, I want to also give a plug for these guys. It is a free service, by the way, that you can use not just in school, but you could set up a Kahoot. Go to Kahoot.com and set up a free account, and you can use this type of thing for meetings at work, which we've used a lot in different areas. So if you're meeting with groups each week, doing projects or whatever, you can use Kahoot to kind of break the ice on whatever. Because there's 4 different types of Kahoots you can create. You can create a quiz like we did tonight. The nice thing about quizzes are it grades it automatically. And Jumble is where, and I'm not used that too often, but it's where it takes answers and you drag answers to put them in the correct order. Like for instance, maybe for computers, it would be maybe how do you set up a Wi-Fi or something like that, and have 4 different steps or whatever. Discussion is asking a question to spark debate or discussion on whatever you're getting ready to talk about. And then survey is the one they just added, which is kind of cool, and I've not used that one at all. And it's basically just to survey the audience on their opinions. And so, but this is totally free to use for anybody. You don't have to be a teacher. So you can set up a free account, sign up a free account, and use it at home. I've known students that use this to do a kind of a genealogy of their family. I have grandkids now, and they never knew my grandpa and my grandma and some of my aunts and uncles and cousins that are no longer with us. So it could be used for a way to kind of teach your family tree, possibly. Kind of a fun way to do it. And, so anyway, throw it out there. You can use it or not use it. It is available also for iOS and Android. And if you don't want to mess with creating your own, I'll show you here. There's tons of free ones that people have already created from different levels. So you'll notice they have like top picks, and I'll click on that to show you the top picks that are out there right now. World Cup. So anything that's buzzing right now, there will be a Kahoot for it. So if you're a World Cup, anybody World Cup watchers, okay, so you'll love that because there's tons of World Cup, guessing the country, football, and all these are topics of today. Educate about implicit bias and inclusion, Russian football, quiz for kids, flags around the world. So a whole bunch of fun stuff. And you can even select it by category, I believe. So if you want to come down here and select, let's say, so they got soccer, inspired changes, nature and science, math, science, English, history. The list goes on and on. So these are totally free to use, and I had students use these to not only for class stuff, but for things they're learning in other classes as well. So Kahoot.com, you went to Kahoot.it to do the actual game, but Kahoot.com is what you use to create your own. All right, is look at in our course this week, the agenda. I think I emailed everybody telling you I bumped up the date for week 159 if you had issues with getting in or whatever the case may be. So you have till 11:59 tonight to complete week 1 stuff. Week 2 podcast is being recorded now. Part 1 of my IT lab, part 2 of my IT lab, and a sim for chapter 2 is all due this week. And then discussion for week 2. What we're going to do tonight is go over 2 things. We'll do this in our face-to-face and even online. And by the way, before I go further, I did change one thing in the agenda for this semester because of scheduling from my end. So I updated the order of when we're doing face-to-face online. So tonight's face-to-face, last week was face-to-face. The next 2 weeks are online, okay? Then we have face-to-face in week 5. 2 weeks following that, week 6 and 7 is online, and then the final week is face-to-face. So update your calendar accordingly, because last week I don't believe I moved around some stuff because I have a thing I've got to do the first week in July on a Tuesday, and so we'll do it online. Now the way the online is going to work, I think I told you this last week. If I didn't, I'll tell you now. Monday morning, the podcast will be posted next Monday. Announcement will be posted as well, telling you the podcast is live, along with the agenda, like I did this week. You'll watch the podcast, which will basically go over what we're doing over right now. I think I'll go ahead and do a Kahoot like we did in here. Instead of being 10 questions, it'll be like 5 questions probably during the online week. You'll do the Kahoot. It doesn't matter what time you do it, by the way, next week. You can do it Monday morning, or you can do it, Sunday night at 11:50 if you want to. It doesn't matter to me. You have the whole week to complete the online assignments. So on the podcast, though, I'll go over the Kahoot. We'll go over what to do that week for week 3. We'll go over a PowerPoint that has to do with what you're going over that week. We'll also watch a video usually, and then wrap it up. So that'll be what we'll do for the face-to-face and also the online. The online difference will be it'll be ready for you Monday morning. That podcast will be ready for you to watch. I recommend when you watch a podcast to make sure you have it set to highest quality. And I'll show you how to do it right now on my computer. And I'll use last week's as an example. So I'll go to week 1 module, and I will bring up the podcast for last week. And I like to go click on this link here because it brings it in a new tab. But over here I'm going to pause this. Over here on the right side where it says settings, you want to make sure that the settings are set to the highest quality. You'll notice this one says quality auto 720. And it might be the highest possibly, but if not, yeah, it is. It's the highest. So you want to set to the highest quality just because when you go to full screen, you want it to be the best visual experience. And the best way to do that, again, is setting the settings. And YouTube changed their algorithm to where it should be the highest all the time, but I've seen it not do that, especially if it's set to auto. So just click on that to make sure it is at the very highest quality, which is going to be that highest number. Does that make sense? And so just do that, and that'll help you. Especially when you have stuff on the video that's text. If you have a lower quality, I'll show you here. I'll do a lower quality just to show you kind of what it looks like. Huh? Focus? You're out of focus, right? It looks like it that way. So that's low quality. This is the highest quality. Much different, right? You got new glasses when you went to high quality, right? Make sense on that? So make sure you do that when you watch your podcast, or if you watch on the online session. But some of you watch, podcast from last week, maybe your forward fast, your podcast. And I mentioned this last week about forward fasting. Some of you might be new to video podcasting altogether. What I mean by forward fasting is you can go down here to the line and forward fast to a section that you want, and then let go of it, and it'll stop it right in that area there. and then you can play it from that point on. Okay, make sense? All right. Go back to the home. All right, I've got a PowerPoint we're going to watch first, and then we're going to do on the history of computers. It's like a 7-minute video. We'll end with that. During the discussion on the PowerPoint, I'll probably ask questions and want your thoughts on things, because I kind of like to do that when we're in class. And so kind of get your ideas on stuff or what you think about things. So let's go and get started on this. Go ahead and go full screen. All right. In fact, let me go change something here. There we go. I like that better. All right. So we're going to look this week in chapter 2. This is what you're going to be doing anyway, by the way, this week. Yes. What was that? No, you don't need to take notes. Well, you can or can't, because it's being recorded, right? So if you want to take notes, you can. If you don't, you can just sit and watch and listen and kind of partake in the discussion. So you don't feverishly have to take notes if you don't want to, because again, it's being recorded. Okay, good question. All right, so we're going to look this week at chapter 2, technology in action. This is one of the PowerPoints you'll be going over again on your own. And I like to kind of refresh your memory, kind of like each week doing the Kahoot. You're going back and looking at what you just did. And it's been proven when we reiterate or repeat anything in life up to 3 times, it helps us keep it in our long-term memory, basically. And so just viewing it 2-3 times is going to help you. So we're going to look at understanding computers, what input devices are, what output devices are. Some of the objectives here are the 4 main functions of a computer system, how they interact with data and information. We'll look at defining bits and bytes and how they're measured, listing common types of computers, and discuss their main features. And then look at types of keyboards and touchscreens, which there's tons of different types. Describe the main types of mice and pointing devices, and images and sounds and sensors, how they are used in computing. And then outputting images for audio and the various types of printers and why we use them. So on the objective 1 of the 4 main functions, we're going to look at first. So 4 functions within the computers and any device you use, and this is not just for laptop or desktop or tablet, is 4 major functions of all types of computer type of equipment. When I say computer, that's your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop, all 4 types. So you've got input, where it gathers data. That input can come from your keyboard. It can come from your microphone. It can come from your camera on the computer or the device, whatever you're working on. Processing manipulates, calculates, and organizes that data. So when you press the A key on a keyboard, your computer processes that numeric value of A and converts it to the letter A and say a word processing document like Word. If you're doing a video, it takes that input video stream and converts it into a working video. And then output is displaying that information for usable purposes. Output can be, if it's video, a video. If it's words you're typing in, it could be output, could be a document. If it's audio, it's a sound file. If it's a program, it's a program that you're coding or you're working on. And then storage is how you save information. So input, processing, output, and storage, those 4 functions are the major and only functions needed to know initially on how computers work. So bytes and bits. The computers are made up of what's called the binary language or binary digits, all made up of zeros and ones. So I said earlier, when you press the A key on your keyboard, there's what's called an ASCII key code for every key that you press, whether it be capital A, lowercase a, space bar, 1, 2, 3, whatever. There's a number equivalent to that key you just pressed, and that number is converted into binary, and then the computer converts it to whatever it was that you need for that application. So when if you're in Word and you press A, it converts the numeric value of A, we'll say it's 256, into the letter A on your screen. But the computer reads it as a whole bunch of zeros and ones every time you press anything on your keyboard. A whole bunch of strings of zeros and ones converted into text. Byte, on the other hand, is a combination of zeros and ones. So there's 8 bits make 1 byte. Okay. So how many has Wi-Fi at home? How many has Wi-Fi at home? Okay, cool. So let me just show you an example. And if you have Wi-Fi, you've seen something like this maybe when you set it up. In fact, how many set up your Wi-Fi yourself? You did it yourself. You plugged it in the box, whatever. So a number of you did. So when you're at home and you're looking at your Wi-Fi router, it might give you an IP address or something like this for your router. That's your Wi-Fi access point. And this is an IP address, 192.168.1.1. It's a popular IP address, by the way, for a Linksys router. Okay, but every number, decimal, 10-point decimal number, can be converted to a binary, an 8-digit binary decimal. So this is not going to be correct. I'm just going to do it for example's sake. So we'll say that this is the binary number for 192 or for 192, and we put that in there, convert it. You can take the scientific calculator on your computer and convert it, that 192 decimal to binary. It'll give you some 0 and 1 sequence of numbers. And there'll be 4 of them, basically. There'll be 4 of those separated by a dot, where these will basically be converted to in your calculator, it's called bin, and this number would be called decimal. And so it's unique, meaning that binary equivalent is converted to a decimal equivalent, again, made up of zeros and ones. The other thing about digital is digital can only be on and off. That's it. You can't have anything in between. Your phone either works or it doesn't work when it comes to digital, meaning the bars on your phone determine the signal strength, but that means how close you are to the cell tower. The same way you're home on your computer, the bars on your laptop, how close you are to the router, the Wi-Fi router. But that has nothing to do with being on or off. It just tells you the signal strength. Digital is basically this right here, taking and doing either off or on. That's it. There's nothing in between. There's no dimming switch, right? And back in the day when technology first came out with cell phones, right? Anybody remember the analog cell phones way back? Basically, what that allowed you to do was you not only had, not only had strength to the tower, but since it's not digital, they weren't digital signals, they were analog signals. It's kind of like the same signals you get for AM, FM radio, basically. The closer you are to an AM station, the stronger the strength of that signal sound. So on the old cell phones that had analog, you could be talking to somebody and they start breaking up, right? Well, they try to fake that today with digital. It's not really, You can go in and out with digital, but you can't break up the actual connection. So back in the analog days, though, you could actually be breaking up, and they could barely hear you, kind of like in a drum or something, or garbled, right? And so the reason I say that is in digital days, what we have now with cell phones, again, it's either on, off, on, off, on, off. So this will be on, this will be off. In analog, it was like this, okay? Analog signals like this. Means a continuation of up and down waves, but it can be, even at the lowest point, still be on. It'd be very, very low data transfer, very bad data transfer, if that makes sense. So the other terms you've heard in computers, maybe with your Wi-Fi at home, maybe, or with Comcast or Xfinity now, is some of these words here, like gigabytes. They guarantee maybe I don't know 100 gigabyte download speed or something like that, or megabyte download speed, whatever it is. Kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, and petabytes. Those are all different increments of how we measure size of data in computers. The left is the least amount of size. To the right is the largest amount of size or larger amount of size. So types of computers. You're familiar with all these. Smartphones. Let's get a really old picture of a smartphone, by the way. It's like 1990. Laptops, tablets, choosing a portable device, and stationary. Now, most certain, I think it was last year, early 2017, the stat came out that for the first time, mobile devices had surpassed sales for laptops and desktops. That makes sense, right? If you think about your own life, what do you use mostly in your day? Do you use this type of device, or do you use computer that you're in front of, or laptop? Which one of these three do you use? We'll put these two in the same category, by the way. We'll put tablets and phones in one category, and we'll put computers and laptops in another. How many uses tablets and phone majority of your day? You're using tablets and phones for checking email, social media, texting your friends and family, right? So all of us, the majority of hands that went up, meaning that makes sense on that stat last year, meaning when you go out and buy a new device, it's more likely you're going to be one of these, or it's going to be one of these. That's going to be what you're going to buy. Same with businesses, though, too. When businesses buy new products for salespeople, computer devices, they're buying tablets. They're buying phones. They're not buying big laptops anymore, okay? You probably heard of like the Surface Pro, right, through Microsoft. It's a tablet, right? It's basically a glorified, expensive tablet, right? Same thing with Apple, the iPad Pro, Google, Chromebook, Pixel Chromebook. Those are all high-end tablets, basically. And the reason it's useful in the business world is if you fly a lot or know people that fly a lot. How many knows people fly a lot, or you yourself fly a lot? Fly meaning for your job, for their job. Okay, the thing with flying is you can only use your device when you're 30,000 feet in the air, basically. You can use your laptop for the most part. If you have a tablet, though, which, by the way, Surface Pro is considered a tablet now, you can use it all day long, the whole time you're on the plane. So while you're on the tarmacs, while you're waiting to be taken off, while you're taking off, while you're in 30,000 feet in the air, you can use the whole time, basically, that you're traveling to get more work done. So a lot of businesses will buy tablet type of devices. And so choosing a portable device, for the most part, is what people do today. They'll choose a mobile type of device. In fact, you might have heard of a term called BYOD, bring your own device. That's basically what IT folks like myself are having to deal with all day long, is people bringing their own device and be able to work with those devices to make them not only secure when they connect to the network, but to where when they are connected to the network, what they have on their devices will not infiltrate the network with viruses and malware and things of that nature, okay? And so the way IT works now is totally different today than it used 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we mostly dealt with laptops and desktop, and that was it. Now we mostly deal with mobile phones and tablets, whether the company buys them or the person brings them themselves to work. Because everybody in here brings your cell phones to work, right? Most of you don't have to probably check your phones at the door. So you're having it at your desk all day long. You basically have a computer at your desk, which is your phone, that's about 200 times more powerful than the first computer that sent the man to the moon. That phone is. And so that's a pretty powerful device that you can communicate effectively throughout your day with your family and friends and even coworkers sometimes. And so understanding types of computers, since everything's moving more towards the mobile platform, all providers of hardware are moving towards that as well when it comes to creating devices. So Microsoft, Google, Dell, HP. If you load in the store, most of them are tablet type of devices or mobile devices in nature. So keyboards, this would be input devices, physical keyboards and touchscreens. Again, throughout your days, from the raise of hands earlier, most of you probably use both keyboards and touch. Yes, you have a comment? Yeah. Good question. The operating system, we'll start there to make it a simpler answer for you. But the operating system for mobile devices are different than the operating system for desktops and laptops. It's becoming closer, meaning it used to be like this 5 years ago. Now it's about like this. Meaning it's getting pretty close to, like on a desktop or laptop. I'll give you an example of, in my world, like in developing software, I have to use a desktop or laptop to develop software because the software is not available on a tablet or phone to create that application, right? But there's tools coming out now to where I would say within the next 3 to 5 years, the same software I have to develop applications will be available on tablet. And so that's a big difference right there. But you're talking about people that develop stuff for consumers. And then, you know, as far as consumers using, it's pretty much level now as far as the application you can use on your desktop and laptop now can be used for the most part in everyday users on the laptops and phones. So an example would be like web browsing. Yeah, you can do both on both devices, right? Word processing, can you do both on both devices? Tablets, yes. Phones, probably not. Does that help answer that, or?
Well, I have like an online portal.
Okay.
With my phone.
Yeah, and they probably they can block that from happening. Meaning, from a technology perspective, I can block what I want to come in and not come in. So, but they can block by device. If that makes sense. So they can say, okay, when I see a phone device, not letting it in. Doesn't matter what phone it is. I see a tablet, not coming in. Two ways they do that. There's two usually reasons people do that. One is for the as many tablets that are out there. You know this. As many tablets and phones that are out there, it'd probably be a nightmare to create something that's available in the same format on every device. For example, like Android has 256 different versions of Android right now. So could you imagine creating a web page or some service for students that you have to make sure works on all 275 devices, that makes it look a little different, each one of them. And some of them might not even work possibly when they see the page, if that makes sense. So that's probably why they do something like that. I will say though, probably within the next 5 years, that will go away as well. Because again, the technology is getting to where it's pretty much even. What I'm hoping to happen is like Google's, Android's the problem child. Android has so many different versions. We get Android users on one platform, okay? Meaning all of them are using one platform, kind of like in the Apple world. I think the last stat I heard was 97% of people who use iOS devices, iPhone, iPad, are on the latest version, meaning the same version. The Android world, again, 275, something like that, different versions. And that has nothing to do with the user's fault. It's the phone companies that give people phones that have Android locked on those phones. The phone companies lock them at a certain version. The users themselves can't even upgrade. They can only do so much with what they're given, if that makes sense. So what I'm hoping that there's a big movement right now for this to happen is that Google, which creates one of the Android platforms, if all the phone companies said, we're going to use and you guys might have heard like the Google Pixel phone or Google phone or whatever it's out. If everybody would use the same platform, like the Google platform, across the board, then that would make things much easier for folks like NIU and folks like, you know, every business basically that has to deal with that, connecting users and making sure everything works. Does that make sense? And so will that happen? I think it will happen. It's just going to take time. It's starting to move that way. Because everybody knows, Google's got the resources for sure. They're well liked and respected, and as long as all the phone companies agree with that, but yeah, we'll use Google as a de facto platform for our Android OS. If we do that, I think it'll be much better. So hopefully it answered your question as far as capabilities and why it's different. And it is different. It's not different on the as much on the devices, but there's so many different type of devices that can connect. So how many uses basically throughout the day? How many does a lot of keyboard entry in your job? You do a lot of keyboard data entry. Okay, so the top one you use a lot, and regardless of how you enter that data. Meaning, I had a friend of mine that I used to work with when I was a chef, and it was a Mexican restaurant. And I went home one night, and I heard Jack in there typing he was typing so fast. And Jack was a football player in college. He's my size, a little bit bigger. And I said, Jack, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I'm typing a report for tomorrow. I'm like, how fast can you type? And he goes, oh, I can type 120 words a minute. He goes, in college, I made money by typing people's papers. Played football, but he also typed people's research papers for them. Would make anywhere from $50 to $75 to $100 per paper to type it, right? So that's how he made money. But Jack was, big hands, and he's sitting there typing like a crazy guy, 120 words a minute. It just looked kind of funny, this big guy typing so fast. But whether you type like Jack, 120 words per minute, or you type like this, doesn't really matter as long as the data gets in there. Either way, the keyboards are the #1 way for businesses still today, as far as in a desktop environment, to enter data. Touchscreen's the other one, so your phones, your tablets. Stylus is another way to enter data or select data. And then a virtual keyboard that pops up, like that one on the bottom right here, that you can enter in your data that way as well. So input devices, again, physical keyboards, touchscreens, stylus, and virtual keyboard. I would say, and it's not on the screen, another one would be voice to text as well, would be one that's not on the screen there, where a lot of places use that now. And you can do it on your phones for the most part, whether it be Android or iOS, where you can tell your phone to launch a web browser, or to call Judy, or to call mom, or to give me directions to find home, or whatever, right? And so, or you can be in a document, and literally as you're talking, that document can be typing in what you're speaking. And I had a student of mine year before last that came to me and thought he was in trouble because he used his phone to transcribe all of his papers. He worked better doing it. He would study the material right for his research paper, and then he'd use his phone to walk around because he said he could think better while he was walking. So he'd use his phone and use the voice to text feature on his phone. While he was talking, it was typing in what he was talking. And then, it doesn't get 100% correct, so you have to go in and make some changes or whatever. But he thought he was cheating because he was doing that. Like, no, is it your words? Yeah. Well, it's not cheating. But it felt weird, right? And I'll say that's probably the best term probably to tell you. When you do voice to text, it just feels weird because you're not used to doing it. But almost every company, and most every type of technology company today, and non-technology company, what I mean by that is like doctors, lawyers, construction folks, they're using voice to text now to do pretty much everything. Because again, it's getting pretty close, like a 90+% rate of success of transcribing your voice into text, and then you can make your corrections later. Because in this student's case, basically, he said, when I sit down and start typing, I thought what I'm thinking of. And some of you might be that way. But what you can do is, and all your devices have this now, your mobile devices, you can do the speech to text, right? Where you can speak into your phone and it can fluidly, with your thoughts, transfer your thoughts into text. So you might try that if some of you have issues with that or problems with that, is where, I tell students when I do research papers, you have to basically force yourself when you're typing a research paper initially, on the rough draft anyway, not to format the thing. Don't worry about punctuation, bolding, indentions, none of that. And some of us get so caught up in that we lose track of what we're typing, right? We can get caught up in the formatting to where we spend 2 hours typing, but an hour and a half of that was formatting the 2 hours of typing, right? We didn't get much typing done. We're formatting everything. So for some of us, including myself, it's hard to take thoughts and put it on a Word document when you're typing, because it might break your train of thought, if that makes sense. So the voice to text is one maybe that should be up here, definitely should be up here as an input type of, now granted it's only been available the last few years, but it's getting much more popular. And all of your devices, by the way, your phones and tablets have a text-to-speech feature on that phone where you can be in a notes document and click on the little, microphone on your keyboard and just start talking and it'll convert it. So might try that. Another type of input device, mouse, touchpad, and a game controller. Any gamers in here, by the way? Any gamies? Okay, cool. And so game controllers are definitely considered an input device. So we're looking at images, sensors, and how they input into computing devices. So popular, and I teach digital photography on campus, and we use, for the most part, years ago when I first started teaching digital photography, we would use they call high-end cameras. Basically, it'd be the high-end like Canon or Canon would be a popular one that was used. But now anymore today, people use their phones to do all their photos, right? If I was to ask you, follow you around the week and follow what you do, when you take photos, you're using your phone, right? You're not using your camera. You're not using anything else but your phone to do all of your photography. And then you post it immediately to what location after that, usually? Where do you post it? Yeah. Instagram, Facebook, whatever, right? It's immediately going from phone to social media immediately. And you're no longer printing out pictures anymore. When I first started in digital cameras and phone and photography years ago, I had an old Canon 35 millimeter and a Brownie camera, and we actually took the film out of the camera and went into a dark room and took that film and made it an actual darkroom negative and made it actual photos from that. Now today, you post on social media. Most people don't even print out their photos, and the ink is so expensive it's not feasible to do it at home. So if you ever do print out photos, I always tell students, go to like Walgreens or Walmart, and you can bring your phone right in there, or you can get the app from those places and upload your pictures and pick it up within an hour if you need an actual physical copy of a photo. But digital cameras, camcorders, mobile device cameras, flatbed scanners, that's another one that some students maybe never have used. In my digital photography class, one of the labs that we do is converting an old family photo that needs some touch up and doing some post editing. And we use a mobile scanner, a flatbed scanner, basically to scan the photo and bring it into like Photoshop and do some editing on it. But now you actually have apps on your phone. Like Google has a really good app called Google Photo Scan that you can take a physical copy of a photo, right, on your home table, just lay it on the table, take a picture of it with this Google app. And when it's done, it gives you like 4 little dots to point to. And when you're done scanning this photo, it takes all the glare off of it and scans it really nice. Truly, in my mind, it scans it even better than some of the flatbed scanners do. And it's, again, a free app Google came out with called Google Photos. In fact, I'll see if I can find it, you guys. And it's available for iOS or Droid. So if you have old photos around the house, you can use this to scan old photos. Because somebody be, you might be like me. You're like, I've been wanting to scan these old photos, but I haven't done it yet. Let's see what the name of that is. Photo Scan. Photo Scan is the name of it. It's Google Photo Scan. It's all one word. And the Google product. But when you search for it in the App Store, just Photo Scan. Totally free. It's pretty cool. I've used it quite a bit. If you have old photos around the house or albums you want to convert to digital, that'd be an option for you to do. Webcams, pretty much gone by the wayside. They're built in now to your devices, right? A webcam built into your phone, built into your tablet, built into your laptop. Popular for sound, voice recognition, we already talked about, voice to text. And so sensors is another one. What I mean by sensors here is proximity sensors or motion sensors. And so one of the cool things I just played with recently is Google AI has a device called Google Vision and Google Voice. And it's called AIY, Artificial Intelligence in Use, what it stands for. So Google AIY, and they have two platforms called two kits, Vision and Voice. And both of these are artificial intelligence sensors to convert images into a category of some type. And I'll show you here what it looks like. A blog on it I did here recently, I think. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so this is basically what it looks like right there. That little cardboard box. There's a camera right here in front of it once you put it together. And it's pointed to an orange here. And when it's pointed to the orange on my screen, which you can't see, it's actually saying orange on the screen. It recognized it as an orange. And so one of the use cases for this camera would be in your grocery store, right? When you bring produce up, if you go through self-check or take it through a regular line, what's the first thing you got to do with that orange? What do you got to do before before it's on to the next item? You got to weigh it. What else you got to do? What is it? Yeah, some kind of code, right? You got a little sticker on there with the code 1234, and you got to type in the code 1234. Well, this type of device, if it was in every grocery store, this camera, you could actually just have the camera. You would point the produce to the camera. It would know what it is automatically, and you have to skip the type in. Now, you say, well, that's not going to save much time, but if you take a minute to do that, 30 seconds to do that, times however many millions and millions of produce are bought each year at just Walmart alone, how much time is that going to save? Quite a bit of time. And so that's just one use case. The other use case I thought for this one was, the doors we have on campus and in restaurants and in businesses for handicap, where you can push a button, right? Say you're handicapped, you push a button and it opens the doors for you. Well, this can determine by the gait of a person how they're walking, or whether they have a wheelchair or they have crutches or whatever. And as we're entering the door area within like the first 50 feet, it can determine that and open the door for them. You don't have to push a button anymore. You go to the elevator, don't have to push a button anymore. It opens it up. You go to a classroom door, you don't have to push a button anymore. It opens the door for you. So this would be use cases for an input device like this camera, artificial intelligence, computer learning. And by the way, you can buy these kits if you have nothing to do over the summer, which I know you have something to do for this class, but if you have more free time, you can go to Target and buy these. The one in Janesville had them, and I think the one in State Street was getting them. But it's called Google AIY, there's a visual kit and a voice. Vision and voice is the two platforms. So I think I've got a little video here I'll show you. Just 13 seconds. So pointed to the orange, and I think I showed the screen maybe where it's actually the data is coming. It has if I can go back and stop that. Too fast. So we're gonna stop it this way. All right, there you see it. So see where it says orange, 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 orange. There's these numbers beside it. What these numbers are is the higher the number, it's the computer is saying this is the higher the number, meaning the greater probability it is that object. But the longer you sit in front of the orange, the number, it's learning as it's watching it, And so if you let it sit there long enough, that number gets up to like 99%, and then it learns it and it's captured, and you go on to the next item. But if I had it in this room and you guys were walking by, it doesn't really recognize in this mode people, it just recognizes objects. So it recognize like this would be spray bottle, desk, screens, cabinet, chair, stuff like that. And so pretty cool, right? And this product here, the visual AI, is like $80 for the kit. It takes like 2 hours to put it together, and it puts a little. But it comes with like 5 or 6 different inventions that you can play with. The button one is basically when you put your face up to it, it determines if you're happy or sad. If you're happy and smiling, it blinks and makes a sound. If you're sad, it turns blue. Okay, it's kind of cheesy stuff like that. But it also has some coding stuff in there to learn. So visual AI and vision AI. Visual AI and voice AI is the 2 AIs. You can get them at Target. So I think it's kind of cool. And the voice one's only $30. Yeah, the voice one's $30. That's pretty good. All right. We'll look at options for outputting images and audio. So when you're sending data out of your computer, it can be sent out in these formats: text, pictures, sound, and video. Like today when you came to the class and you logged in your computer and logged into Eagle, you sent Eagle some data. What's some data you sent Eagle today when you sat down? What's some data? Yeah, username, and what else? Password. Anybody send anybody pictures today on your phone? Anybody do that? Send people pictures? You don't tell us what the pictures were, but you send somebody a picture, right? How many send text messages to people today? Okay, cool. And so anybody do any talking on your phone to people today? You talked on the phone, okay? So you've already today, majority of you have done all of these already today and at 7 o'clock, and you probably more than likely did this before noon today. You did most of these, right? Just human nature in our lives, we have to do it to function. You know, what did we do before computers? You might have thought of that. You know, what did we do like last night? The power went out 6 times. What did we do before power? We at one point in our history of the United States, we had no power. Candles, right? You know, and so the reason I mention that is, you know, even though I'm a techie guy and I love teaching technology and using technology, I always have one day a week I don't use technology. And it's usually a Saturday or Sunday or both days. I mean, I try not to use it at all. And I encourage you to do the same. Get away from it for a day because we're in it enough already the week. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but you know, it's healthy to get away from it and take a break from it for a while. And so examples of outputting would be your monitor on your computer or laptops or desktop or phone or tablet, printers, speakers or earbuds. Types of screens that are out today: LCD, which is older school. LEDs are newer ones that most of you use. It's brighter, easier on the eyes. And then OLED is the newest one, which is really better on your eyes, which helps with the rays hitting your eyes. They'll be a little better. And they work with what's called pixels, which is basically if you look at any picture and blow it up to the largest extent, you start seeing the pixels of that image. And so I'll show you here an example of that using an app we use in my photography class. Let's go to this. I'll use this image as an example. All right, so I'm going to bring up a software tool I like to use. This is another one I recommend, CIXLR.com. It's a website that allows you to edit images and create images. So if you can't afford Photoshop, you don't really need to have Photoshop with Pixlr because it allows you to create and edit an image however you want to, much like Photoshop it online. So I'm going to go ahead and open this image. And I'm going to take this image and blow it up and zoom in on it to a really high percentage. So right now it's set to, let's see, 73% is the image here. I'm going to take it and put it up to 800. Let's go even higher. So limit to what I can go on this one. 1,000. 900 is good enough. So you can see when it gets to the 900 level on the Z keyboard key, you can actually see little boxes, colorations of boxes. Those are pixels. Each one of these little boxes is a pixel in the image. You don't see it 100%. You see the nice image laid out, but at 900%, you do see it. So at 100%, you see the normal image. In fact, we'll go up a little higher than that. So we're at 300% there. Starts blurring. You can start seeing a block show up here now. And we're at 600%, 650, 750, 800. So you now see the whole block set up there. And so every image is made up of those pixels, which are determined how many pixels you have. The more pixels you have on your photos closer together, the better quality of that photo. And resolution, again, is driven by pixels on what I just showed you. So the more pixels you have per inch, the better quality image you have. Aspect ratio would be either like when you guys use your phone up here to do portrait, right? Or landscape. This would be portrait, landscape, portrait, landscape. Some photos, naturally fit a landscape portion, like a landscape photo. The photo, you got a lot of people in your family. You're taking a picture of one that might be better fitted to portrait. Speakers, outputs, surround sound, cheap computer speakers to what we have in here, the big fancy outputting speakers that we have in here, to headphones and earbuds. And that would be wireless as well, would be included in that. Types of printers, inkjet or laser. So inkjet is more affordable, high quality color, quick and quiet. Laser costs more, and they print out more per minute, but more expensive. Your inkjets basically will come with like usually 2 or 3 print cartridges, and sometimes they're more expensive than the printer, right? So you buy an HP printer for $60, you go out and buy the black and white and color, and then spending $50 on or $60 on the cartridges. So I always tell students on your printers, yeah, using the black and white's good, but I would never recommend using your printers at home to print photos. It's just too expensive, ink-wise. It's much cheaper to take your photos again to Walmart's or Walgreens. You get much cheaper and better quality output than your printers. Use your printers at home for black and white stuff. You have to print out. Well, I do that at the house, but never print out photos. It's just too expensive to do. Make sense? And so color documents. So I mean, whether there's some color in your document, that's fine. But pictures, I would recommend taking them to a Walgreens or Walmart. Be much cheaper for you and better quality. All-in-one printer. Some of you might have where you can do printer, scanner, copy, or fax. Fax is kind of going by the wayside, but it's still out there, and some businesses might use it. Larger formatter printer is basically kind of like a plotter here, where you can print out banners. Again, you take it to any office supply store, like an Office Depot. They usually have those plotter printers to print out banners and stuff, which really isn't too bad cost-wise. And then a 3D printer, which I've got one of these, and we have some out in the lab as well. When you walk out tonight, you can view them. Sometimes they're working through the semester. In the summer, I don't think Lucas is using them, but we print here on campus, bridge building. We teach AutoCAD, and one of the labs Lucas does with the students is he has them build a AutoCAD bridge, right? Print it out on the printer, and then they weight it to see how much weight it takes to break that bridge the first couple weeks of class. Then at the end of the semester, they build that same bridge with everything they've learned to see how much more weight it can hold, all using the 3D printer. The 3D printers today are used for not just AutoCAD prototyping of devices, but it's used for jewelry today. 3D printers are. There's 3D printers for food that people use. I read a story in the UK where there's 3D printed food, right, the chefs are using, in high-end restaurants. Have you ever seen those plates that are, they come out with a plate like this and the food's like this big around? It's like $100. That's the type of food that's being created with this. In nursing homes are using it to like print out food that looks like steak, but it's more palatable to the people that are eating it. Maybe they don't have teeth or they can't chew things anymore. And so a lot of cool uses where you can do 3D printing at small scale to 3D printing to building bridges across London. It has one 3D print with arc welding where it's building a bridge from one bridge to one side to the other with a 3D printer. Buildings are being built with 3D printers now. Buildings, I think it was like a $5,000 price tag to build a room about this size. It could be built in one day, and the printer printed concrete, basically. The 3D printer printed concrete, and it went up and down like this until the whole thing was built, and $5,000. And they're using it for like third world countries and needing shelter and things of that nature. So that's kind of cool. And so output devices, all-in-one, large print, 3D printer. Processing, storage, and connectivity. Basically on this one has to do with your actual storage of your computer, how it's processing it, how it stores it, and how you connect things. So let's look at the motherboard. So inside of your desktops and laptops, it kind of looks like this. Okay, you've got your ports over here for your USB, your maybe your monitor, Ethernet, sound, your processing chip, your memory modules, and some expansion slots, maybe for like video cards. And so the motherboard is made up of a CPU, central processing unit. ROM is read-only memory. RAM is random access memory. And that's actually these right here where my mouse is hovering over would be the ROM area there, or the RAM area. Slots for expansion, and then network interface card. Most computers have it soldered on the motherboard, and this one is over in this area here for the network interface card. Plugs in right there. So CPU is the brains of the computer. Without this, your computer wouldn't work, your phone wouldn't work, your laptop wouldn't work, your desktop wouldn't work, your tablets wouldn't work. It controls all the functions of inputs, outputs, and what happens to the processing. So for everything we've talked about so far tonight, your keyboards, your camera, your microphone is all being processed through that central processing unit to determine what happens to that input. Process all commands, billions of tasks per second. The CPU performance, there's what's called single core and dual core. Basically, on the dual core, you're going to be able to have more processing at the same time, to where you're basically able to get more. The more cores you have available, the more processing you have available, if that makes sense. So like servers that you guys logged in tonight for Eagle are not located here on campus. They're located in like the East Coast somewhere. But they've got thousands of servers for students around the country that log into Eagle or to Instructure is what it's called, to handle all of that. And those servers are going to have like quad core or higher capabilities for that processor. Most of your computers today, like your desktops, laptops, have like at least a quad core, at least 4 processors built in. Disk space, most computers today that are new, you're going to have a solid state drive, an SSD drive, meaning there's no moving parts in the drive whatsoever. It's quiet, it boots up quickly, and it's efficient. It's much like the ones you have on your phone or your tablets, or now it's being made available in your laptops and desktops. This one here is pictured as the old school disk drive. You'll notice it has an actuator arm, a read-write arm right here that goes like this all the time, and it's reading and writing onto this disk. And you can imagine over time it wears out. The disk wears out, the reading writing arm wears out. But for years, that's all we had for hard drives, is that right there. And they've got much smaller over time. And now the most common is the solid state at the bottom. Solid state, again, it's no moving parts, no heat. It doesn't generate any heat. The ones there, pictured there, can generate some heat and does generate some heat. on your unit. So here's a flash drive, which most of you are familiar, like for your cameras, you've seen that, like an SD card or something, or your phones have like a micro SD card. How many's used these already on your phones before? The micro SD or the regular SD? Basically, it's flash memory, no moving parts, but can hold anywhere from like 1 gig up to 128 gigs, or I've seen them up to even higher than that. I think they have some out now even in a terabyte or getting close to the terabyte range for space that you can get. It's more expensive the more space that you need. Cloud storage. How many uses cloud storage in here? Like you use Dropbox, you use Google for files. How many uses that right now? Those are real popular. We'll be talking about more of that this semester. I would recommend though, as a student, if you don't already do this, you get it free when you're a student here anyway. You have a Google account that you can use Google Drive to store all of your documents for school. It doesn't cost anything. You already have it as part of us being a student here. And if you don't want to use your student account to do that, create another free Google account, which I recommend, to store all your data. Google gives you like 25 gigs of data at no cost, and that's a lot of space. And you can store pictures, you can store all your documents for school, all in Google Docs and Google Drive. And you can buy those, you can download those apps, by the way. Google Drive and Google Docs both is available for all of your phones and tablets and on the App Store. So Google Drive and then Google Docs. Google Docs will give you things like an app called Write, which is like Word, and then Slide, which is like PowerPoint. Recommend, and then Numbers, which is like Excel. And so totally free to use and to access, so might as well avail yourself to that. And most of these places give some amount free, like Google's 25 gigs. Dropbox is 2 gigs free. iCloud for Apple gives you, I think, 10 gigs free. And so then you can purchase additional. But for most students, 25 gigs is going to last you for your school time anyway, for the most part. And if you get it filled up, what you can do is just create another Google account. If you don't want to buy anything, just create another one for whatever purpose. Now, these are going by the wayside, some of these on this slide. Some of your computers, in fact, how many of you do not have a CD or DVD computer at home? Do not have it at your home. It does not have it. You do have one? You do have one. Well, a lot of people don't. Like if you go out and buy a new laptop or desktop today, more than likely it's not going to have a CD drive or a DVD drive, either one. Okay. Again, that's going by the wayside. You've heard of Netflix, right? They're changing from their DVDs. There's still a few around that you can go to, or not Netflix, I'm sorry, Redbox. Redbox still around, but they're going more to a digital platform as well, just because most people don't have any way to play it, especially on their mobile devices or less laptops or desktops. But they're still around. What's kind of funny about this is I do some stuff at Barnes & Noble every once in a while throughout the year. We do like a technology show a couple times a year. And the last time I was there, I was in a music section. I'm a musician. My dad is a musician. And so I've always loved collecting music, right? And back in the day, it used to be vinyl. Well, vinyl's coming back, right? In fact, last time I was at Barnes & Noble, they were showing me their new music section of vinyl. It's now replaced the music section that used to be for CDs. CDs are gone. Best Buy doesn't even carry them anymore. But Best Buy carries vinyl. It's kind of crazy, right? Do what? It is, yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of cool too, because if those of you that don't remember vinyl or never had vinyl, one of the cool things about vinyl was you could it came with like a booklet, you got to actually read the lyrics of the song, right? But a lot of new artists today are creating vinyl. In fact, there's a number of shops in town that sell vinyl, like I already mentioned, Barnes. And anyway, it's not just the older audience is going to buy vinyl. I have a niece that goes to Arkansas University. I was talking to her. Half of her floor listens to vinyl every day. they bring to campus their players, the record players, and they play it now instead of playing CDs and on their phones. Again, because it's coming back. All these new artists make some really cool albums and album covers, and but some of these things, it's kind of funny how things are kind of coming around circle, and the things that we got rid of are coming back, like vinyl, which I always thought was pretty cool anyway. But CDs are going away, DVDs are going away, even Blu-rays. Blu-rays are pretty much used today only for gaming, but even all your gaming platforms. A few people that raise your hand on gaming. I believe gaming today is going more towards where you download, right? It's digital, right? You download it.
Sometimes what's going on is that it's supporting both the hard copy and the digital copy. Why you want the hard copy and why it's still around is because once you get tired of the game, you sell them.
Yeah, exactly.
You get your money's worth back. But when it's digital, if you bought it digital, you can't sell it back.
Right, it's gone after that. Yeah, I know when I took my grandson to GameStop, they're pushing all new games anyway, the digital download versus the download the hard copy, which you can still get, but it costs a little bit more. So here's the capacity of some of these types of storage. Blu-ray, 50 gigabyte, dual layer. Blu-ray regular is 25, DVD dual 8.5 gigs, regular DVD 4.7, and CD 700 megs. And again, just note that a lot of these technologies are still around, but they're kind of going away with cloud services and streaming. Here's the different types of connectors. With a raise of hand, how many uses these on multiple devices throughout your day, these types of connectors? So we got Thunderbolt, we got USB, we got your Ethernet, which is basically connected to your computers at home with your probably with your cable modem, and then HDMI port. HDMI is usually going to be used today at home anyway for your television. If you have any connected devices to your television, it's going to be HDMI. Thunderbolt is going to be used on iOS devices, but also it's being used in others as well. USB, everybody's probably using USB throughout the day for a lot of stuff. And then connectivity port, Ethernet, again, is the cable basically that connects your network to your device. All right, power consumption. There are different types of power management. We've got battery power, electric power, and this screen here just shows when your computers note that you're connected to, say, electric, it might do certain things different when you're connected to battery. Meaning, if you're connected to electric power source, your computer might never go to sleep. It might always be awake. But if it's connected to battery, it might sleep in 10 minutes, or it might go to screensaver in 1 minute, or whatever the case may be. So all of your computers and laptops and desktops and even your mobile devices will have a power management screen like this to manage when it's on power, is battery, or power is plugged in. Does that make sense? To kind of help manage your battery life to make it a little bit longer. And so I recommend to students that this slide basically is to, when you go home tonight, this week, look at your laptop and your tablets and your phones and make sure things aren't running in the background that don't need to be running. You can turn them off. You'd be surprised how many apps are running in background mode that you never use anymore. You can turn them off. It'll say battery power. Okay. In fact, some of your phones today will show you how much battery power each of those apps are using in the last week or 24 hours. You're like, well, I don't use it. Like in one app, it was called Gas Buddy was the name of the app. It was a great app. It is a great app. I'm not saying it's not. And Gas Buddy tells you the lowest gas prices, right, around where you're at. This is iOS and Android both, but I never use it. So it was using like 35% battery power every day, and I was not using it. So I turned it off. I'm like, I don't need it. I don't need to have it running in the background all the time. You know, now if I want to use it, I just open it, and it takes a few seconds to update the data. But again, it's better than using battery power 35% each day, if that makes sense. So you might have apps doing that. You can use your power management to help you with that. A big thing at work today in workplaces is ergonomics and how, you know, from really expensive chairs to the popular thing today is having stand-up desks, right? where you can either stand up or sit down, and the desk will go up and down with you. If you've never seen those are real popular now when you go into workplaces. A company here locally called bytes, you might have heard of. They have that for all their employees. You can, when I walk in there to visit them, half of them will be standing up, half will be sitting down. And when they stand up, they just literally push a button and the desk comes up here and they're just standing up working like normal, but they're standing up. And again, it's supposed to be healthier for you because you can walk around, you can move. It's definitely not healthy for you to sit down all day long for 8 hours. And so position of monitor, position of chair, proper position when typing, taking breaks every hour for 5-10 minutes is helpful if you can, and having good lighting. And then assisted adaptive technologies, like I don't know if you noticed on the screen here, she's doing exercises. She can do exercises here as well. Some of these devices actually have foot pedals where you can actually do exercises while you're working. So that is the slideshow. Now let's watch the fun, excited video because I know you guys are really pumped about this. Oh, Matt. All right, so let's do that. And it's a 7-minute video. Do not go to sleep because I will be turning the lights off for this one. Yeah, I will be turning the lights off for this one. So let me get to that one here real quick. I'll try to go full screen and turn my volume up a little bit. It's not too bad a video. It's basically on the history of computers is what this one's on. I had it on the background there, it looks like. This one's on the history of the computers, what's called. And again, it's only 7 minutes long. Let me make sure I got the right one. I'll click on it again. There you go. Maybe I'll see that. Find out. Okay, here we go. You guys see it okay up front where the light is a little bit? Okay, cool.
Our historical journey starts in 1975, when the first personal computer, the Altair 8800, was born. The Altair had no keyboard, no monitor, and was not user-friendly. But despite its limitations, computer enthusiasts flocked to the machine. Around the same time, Steve Wozniak, an employee at Hewlett-Packard, and Steve Jobs, who was working for computer game manufacturer Atari, built a personal computer, the Apple I, in Wozniak's garage, and formed the Apple Computer Company in 1976. In 1977, the Apple II was born. The Apple II included a color monitor, sound, game pals, and an operating system that was stored in read-only memory. A number of competitors began to enter the market. The Commodore PET was aimed at the business market and did well in Europe, while Radio Shack's TRS-80 was clearly aimed at the US consumer market. The Osborne Company introduced the first portable computer in 1981. Although portable, the Osborne weighed 24.5 pounds. It featured a minuscule 5-inch screen and carried a price tag of almost $1,800, about $5,000 today. In 1981, IBM released its first personal computer, the IBM PC. It became popular as a work computer because of the familiarity companies had with IBM mainframes. But IBM also marketed its PC through retail outlets such as Sears to reach home users, and it dominated that market so quickly, Time magazine named the computer 1982 Machine of the Year. The software industry began in the 1950s with the programming languages such as Fortran, Algol, and COBOL. These languages were used mainly by businesses to create financial, statistical, and engineering programs. However, the 1964 introduction of Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code, BASIC, revolutionized the software industry. BASIC was a language that beginning programming students could easily learn and quickly become the key language of the PC. Operating systems are written to coordinate with the specific processor chip that controls the computer. At that time, Apple's ran on a Motorola chip, whereas all other personal computers ran on an Intel chip. Disk Operating System, DOS, was the OS that controlled the first Apple computers. The Control Program for Microcomputers, CPM, was the OS designed for the PC processor. Eventually, Microsoft developed MS-DOS specifically for IBM PCs, but soon all PCs running on the Intel chip used MS-DOS as their OS. Another advancement was how users could interact with computers. Initially, users had to use complicated command or menu-driven interfaces to input commands. Eventually, a graphical user interface, GUI, which uses icons to represent programs and actions, allowed users to interact with the computer more easily. Legend has it that Jobs was influenced by a GUI on a PC prototype that Xerox was working on, but never sold commercially. Jobs incorporated a similar GUI into the Lisa and soon afterwards the Macintosh, providing GUI features such as windows, drop-down menus, icons, a file system with folders and files, and a point-and-click device called a mouse. The Macintosh became one of Apple's best-selling computers. Prior to the PC, computers were large, bulky machines that filled large rooms and required many individuals to operate. The Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, ENIAC, was developed in 1944 to calculate the settings used for weapons. The ENIAC was generally thought of as the first successful high-speed electronic digital computer. Completed in 1951, the Universal Automatic Computer, or UNIVAC, operated on magnetic tape, setting it apart from its competitors, which ran on punch cards. The UNIVAC and ENIAC were considered first-generation computers as they used vacuum tubes to store computational data. Soon the transistor, another means to store data, replaced the bulky vacuum tubes. Because transistors are smaller and more powerful than vacuum tubes, they were used in almost everything, including radios and phones. Computers that used transistors were referred to as second-generation computers. Transistors were limited as to how small they could be made. In 1958, the integrated circuit, a small chip capable of containing thousands of transistors, was introduced and enabled computers to become smaller and lighter. The computers in this early integrated circuit generation were considered third-generation computers. Nearly a decade later, in 1971, the Intel Corporation introduced the microprocessor chip, a small chip containing millions of transistors. The microprocessor functions as the CPU, or brains of the computer. Computers that use a microprocessor are called fourth-generation computers. Over time, Intel and Motorola became the leading manufacturers of microprocessors. Today, the Intel Core i7 is one of Intel's most powerful processors. As you can see, personal computers have come a long way since the Altair and have a number of inventions and people to thank for their amazing popularity.
All right, that guy's voice is really excited. All right, so, whoa, there we go. All right, there's a couple of movies I want to recommend to you, and I'll write them on the board to watch in the next week if you can. You're not going to be graded on this, just really good movies to get caught up on computer history, and they're fun to watch. Both of these are good movies. All right, the first is Pirates of Silicon Valley. Pirates of Silicon Valley is a story of the Mac and PC battle when they first started out with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. It talks about the beginning of that battle or that relationship, sometimes a battle, between the two. It talks about, like in the video, the first Mac that came out, that Steve Jobs came out with. They talked about in the video and how that came about. So Pirates of Silicon Valley is a great movie. Noah Wiley plays Steve Jobs, I think. And so if you've never seen it, it's a great movie to watch, and it teaches something about computer history. I believe it's important. The next is on social media. You might have seen this. It's called The Social Network. This is on the start of Facebook and all that, like Napster and how that all started. So 2 movies, Pirates of Silicon Valley, Social Network, are both great movies to help you with computer history and social media history, which are still being built today. You know, 1985 was when the first date of when computers really launched in the DOS world and Windows world and Mac world. That wasn't too long ago. We're still in the infancy stages when it comes to computer technology, on the fastness of computers, how small we can get things. So where we're at now is still considered by some at the beginning stages of computer technology. So, bless you, and it's changing so quickly that it's hard to keep up. But if you're like me, that's what interests me the most. That's what kind of keeps me from being bored, is because it changes so often. Okay, and this technology or this field, computer science, is a field that changes all the time. But regardless of what field you go into, like we on the Kahoot question, regardless of what field you go into, it changes as well because technology is changing so fast. So a software you use today in your workplace might not be the software you use next month in your workplace. Or the hardware devices you use might not be the same hardware use device next year, or even in September of this year. So things are progressively changing in a fast pace. And so movies like the ones I mentioned kind of give you a backstory a little bit better of where we're at. And wrapping up tonight as far as what's due this week. And by the way, somebody asked earlier, will we go to 840 every time? No, as you can tell. I've never taught that way. When I'm done, I'm done. And so I hope you appreciate that. And so, but basically, I do try to go over at the end what's due this week, which is everything that you've been watching so far is being recorded. And I'll go to that week 2 so you can see that. So if you go to week 2 and you want to go over something we talked about, you can watch that podcast that's already being recorded now. My T-Lab Part 1, I'll go over these real quickly. Again, all these assignments that say My IT Lab require you to do My IT Lab, which everybody in here for the most part did really well on getting everything in. And so just follow the steps, what it tells you to do from step 1, step 2, step 3. Don't skip a step because the last step usually is completing something. Usually in this case, it's completing your checking your understanding part 1 and 2, and your that's on part 1. Part 2 of My IT Lab is going to probably be the quiz to end it, to make sure it kind of wraps it all up. And so on this one here, you will go on and at the end do the mini quiz to check to make sure that everything's good. You get up to 3 opportunities to take that quiz to get the highest score out of the 3. And again, even though next week is online, I will create a quick Kahoot that has to do with that final quiz for chapter 2. That's what I'll do. And I'll add in there a few questions like I did tonight. I'll probably add in something about the video we watched today, maybe some movies that we talked about, stuff like that I'll add in. These are not graded though. The Kahoots are not graded, so they're just for fun for you. Part 2 of My IT Lab is chapter 2, part 2, which is the understanding bits and bytes, which is a good section. At the end of that, also the mini quiz on part 2. And then the sim lab this week is again a sim lab on chapter 2, on the content of chapter 2, on getting started with bits and bytes. And then discussion. What new technologies piques your interest and why? And I do also want to bring up, before we're done here, the extra credit that's every Friday. I will bring up my T-Lab page here to show you that. You don't have to do the extra credit on Friday if you don't want to. But if you can, if you want to, it's up to you. So I'll bring up the calendar here. Like you do when you go home, I'll bring up the calendar of events, what's due. So I'm going to pull up the Friday one when it comes up here. I've already went over the Sunday stuff, so I won't pull that up. Let's do Friday. So this one for this Friday is called "Smartphones Are Really Smart." Extra credit soundbite. Again, that's due this Friday at 11:59 p.m. And all of them are good. They're not. None of them are. I would say they're all beneficial if you want to take it. And it's not going to take you real long to do it, I don't believe. And so those are the assignments for week 2. Any questions? All right. Well, before you leave, if you've not checked out, come up here and check out. Otherwise, just a reminder, next week, are we online or face-to-face? Online. All right. We'll see you actually in 3 weeks face-to-face. We're off the next 2 weeks online.
So I think I have to check in again. Where am I? What?
Do I know?
What website do I have to go to check in again?